First remove the 1-inch collar and then the spring. Now adjust the remaining collar on the rod so the labels will be more or less centered on the rod. The first thing we want to put on the rod is the guide. Slide the guide down the rod until it goes against the collar. Then install one of the core inserts on the rod so the flange faces the guide. Now install your roll of labels. Now the remaining core insert, push it down inside the roll. Now the remaining guide. Finally the spring and the 1-inch collar. You only want to apply enough pressure to the spring to keep the roll from backlashing as the machine pulls off labels. When installing the roll assembly onto the machine, make sure that the labels are facing down and the roll is unwinding from the bottom, as shown. The first thing you want to do when you install the roll assembly on the machine is align the slots and the guides with the rod on the bottom of the machine. Then you want to align the roll holder rod with the slots on the side frame. Then we're going to pass the backing paper underneath the feed roller assembly and also underneath the 1/2-inch chrome rod. Pull some through, and then we're going to slide the backing paper through the slot in the sensor, as you can see there. Make sure it doesn't go under the sensor, it goes through the slot and then over the 3/8 chrome rod. There is a thumb screw on the bottom of the sensor so you can adjust it left and right of the machine. The actual sensing part of this is about 1/2 inch from the end, so you need to make sure that the longest part of the label is going underneath that sensor. So as you can see through the backing paper here, you can see the labels where these are rectangular labels, so it doesn't matter, but if you had a round label you would want the center of the circle to pass underneath that actual line. Okay, also make sure your sensor is rotated up until it makes contact with the 3/8 chrome rod. So as you can see here, I can rotate it around until it stops. Okay, now we're going to install the table, and I'm gonna install it, then I'm gonna uninstall it so you can see how to do this. As you can see over here, we have a little tab that holds the table in place. We're going to rotate that so the bottom of the tab faces you. You're going to slide the table through the slot in the left side frame, and you're going to wiggle it as you push it down into the machine and to the left. Once it's flat, you can let go of the tab and then slide it into the slot in the right hand side frame. The tab will automatically fall straight down, keeping the table locked in. Again, to remove it, we're going to rotate the tab so the bottom of the tab faces you. We're going to slide the table to the left, lift up on the table as we slide the table to the right and lift out, and the table should come clear very easily. Now we're going to reinstall one more time, slide it in, and lock it in. Next, we're going to take a small piece of backing paper, preferably not too wrinkled, and we're going to tear it off and tear it into just a square. It doesn't have to be perfect. And we're going to put that in our sensor that's down here. This is the reference sensor. It'll kind of hold on to that for you. This tells the machine how much light passes through the backing paper to adjust the sensor automatically that's going to detect your labels. Then we're going to unlock the feed roller assembly, pull the backing paper between the feed roller and the rubber roller and towards the back of the machine. We're going to pull it over the top of the roll, and while we're pulling it, we're going to watch for a label to just start to peel down below. After that happens, rotate the feed roller assembly until it snaps into position, just like that. Now we should be ready to fire the machine up and see if everything is sensing properly. So we're going to make sure that we're on one label, and then we're going to press the foot switch. Okay, and that's exactly what should happen. It should stop right there. Now we're going to wrap this around the rewinder, just like this. We're going to pull that tab out, slide the clip over the top of the paper, kind of holding it straight. You really don't want to pull it off to the side. And then we're going to tear off the excess backing paper. Alrighty, now you should be able to push the foot switch. One label should feed out and stop. If we put it on two labels are going to feed out, and then we can adjust the machine the rest of the way. One thing this machine has is it has the bottle detect option. With the bottle detect, when you set your bottle in, a half a second later it will automatically apply a label. Sometimes when you're setting the machine up, you can wave your hand in front of it if it's turned on and it will dispense the label when you're not ready. And some people prefer to use the foot switch. To disconnect the bottle detect, you grasp the wire and pull outward toward you, and you'll see it move about 1/4 of an inch. That's all it takes to unplug the bottle detect. To plug it back in, shove the wire back in, it'll go back in about between 1/8 of an inch and 1/4 of an inch. So that's how you disconnect or disable the bottle detect. Now we're going to adjust the bottle roller on the Bottle-matic OS. It has an infinite adjustability for the taper of a bottle. So we have wing nuts on each side of the machine. There's 2 wing nuts. So you can just slightly loosen them until they come free, and then you can slide the block forward or backward. But if you have a straight bottle, you really want this to be even on both sides. It doesn't have to be perfect, and you can always adjust it depending on how the label goes on your bottle. Most people don't realize your bottle, a lot of bottles or containers have a slight taper to them, and this allows them to be released from molds and so on. So you may have to adjust for a slight taper, and that's one of the reasons we designed the machine for this, or like this, is because sometimes you do need that real finite adjustment for a slight taper. But it's pretty easy to eyeball. You just want to look straight down in between the rollers, and you want a constant gap. Proper roller spacing isn't that critical. We're going to use a sample bottle we have here. It's a wine bottle. And is what you want is you want the bottle to be stable on the machine. So if it's too close together, the bottle will want to fall off. And so you want to have, for a wine bottle, we're going to give it just a little bit more stability. Again, it's not critical. You just want to try to keep these straight until you put your labels on and decide what taper you may need, if any. So then we're going to tighten those wing nuts. And we're going to put the bottle down. Now we're nice and stable. If you go too far apart, you can cause the labels to skip in front of the bottle because the bottle will sit too low in the machine. So that's really your criteria. If they're too far apart and the label skips in front of the bottle, you need to put them closer together. If you have problems with the bottle not wanting to sit on the rollers, then they're too close together because the bottle isn't stable in the machine. To adjust the bottle guide, you simply, in this case it's a clear bottle, you can move the bottle left to right until you get it centered, or you can look down behind the bottle and kind of see the backing paper to center the labels. Then you slide the guide over to touch the bottle and then tighten the thumb screw on the bottom. Now you should be able to put the bottle in, press the foot switch, and apply it. Now we're going to show you how to set up the Bottle-matic to do front and back label, or label 1 and label 2. So the machine first will apply label number 1, then it will put in a gap or a space, and then apply label number 2. To determine the gap or space to program into the machine, we use a fairly simple mathematical formula. We measure the circumference of the bottle, which in this case is 250 millimeters. Then we subtract the length of both labels, which we start at the beginning of one set of labels to the beginning of the second set of labels, which is 160 millimeters. We subtract 160 from 250 millimeters, which gives us a total gap of 90 millimeters. That would include the gap on one side of the bottle as well as the gap on the other. So we divide that by 2, and we come with 45 millimeters. We set the display on the machine to 45. So we have 045, and that should put a gap of 45 millimeters between the labels. Put the bottle in. Make sure we're set to 2 labels. Press the foot switch. Now we'll measure the gap. Perfect. 4.5 centimeters or 45 millimeters. If you have a Bottle-matic that measures in inches, the first number will be inches, then there'll be a decimal point, then tenths of an inch and hundredths of an inch. You use the exact same mathematics, just in inches instead of millimeters.